This movie has an end credits so good that I think I blew my voice out. The price you pay for Spider-Man. Hey movie fans, Spider-Man Far From Home is the latest installment in the MCU and doubles as both a sequel to Spider-Man Homecoming as well as Avengers Endgame. So before we go any further, massive spoiler warning for Avengers Endgame, assuming you haven't already seen it 4 or 5 times by now. Alright, we all good? Good. Far From Home revolves around Peter Parker living in New York in the new post-Endgame timeline. He goes on a European school vacation with the rest of his classmates when he's recruited by Nick Fury to help team up with Mysterio and defeat a strange new force called the Elementals. That's the basic story, but of course with a character like Mysterio, nothing is as it seems, but don't worry, I won't be going into any major spoilers here. While I did enjoy quite a bit of the film, it still was a bit of a mixed bag for me. The stuff that worked really worked, and I wanted more of that. So let's discuss those positives first. Tom Holland is Spider-Man, plain and simple. The kid was born to play the role of both Spider-Man as well as Peter Parker. His chemistry with the cast and the supporting characters as well as the antagonists is just perfect. He also had a great supporting cast returning with characters like MJ, Ned, and Flash, who are all as good if not even better this time around. However, the biggest addition to the cast this time was the biggest highlight for me personally, Jake Gyllenhaal as Mysterio. Without giving anything away, Mysterio is Mysterio, and everything I wanted from the character and then some. The character is given several moments that I genuinely thought could only ever exist in a comic book, and never in a million years thought I would see on the big screen, but sure enough, they're in this movie. Mysterio is a multifaceted performance, and Gyllenhaal absolutely knocks it out of the park. I was also a big fan of the action and set pieces, when the action actually kicks in, I mean. When it decides it wants to be an action movie, it feels like a classic Stan Lee and Steve Ditko Spider-Man story, which is the Spider-Man that I grew up most with, so I had a lot of fun with that. However, this leads me to some of my negatives. While the action is fantastic and certain moments feel ripped right out of a comic book, I did feel there wasn't enough focus on Spider-Man. The story focuses quite a bit on Peter, which is totally fine. A lot of Spider-Man stories deal with the duality of Peter and Spider-Man. But I found myself being far more interested in the villain part of the story, and how is Spidey going to save the day over the other issues Peter Parker was facing in his personal life. The film also answers some of the major questions we as an audience had after Endgame, but it doesn't delve into other aspects as much as I would have liked. Now, with Tony not being around anymore, how does Peter react to that, and how does that change him? These are things that are only really briefly touched upon in the movie, and that I wish would have gotten more screen time. I also thought that the movie only really picked up after the first third, or even around the halfway mark. I found the first half to be incredibly slow and lacking that Spider-Man charm and charisma that Homecoming had. But once the main story starts, it's a lot of fun. While the film was far from perfect, it was still a fun time that sets up an interesting path for Spidey in future films. Overall, I will give Spider-Man Far From Home a 7.5 out of 10. A fun Spidey adventure with some pacing and focus issues, but bolstered by a great villain and heroic action. Also, the mid-credits scene is the best MCU mid-credit scene to date, bar none. Well, what do you guys think about Spider-Man Far From Home? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, if you like what you see and you want to see more, subscribe to the channel, or find me on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram at Uncharted Media. Stay sharp, movie guys and gals.